it's God's will, you know. I'm empty inside.
A family trying to find the strength after a couple is killed less than 2 hours apart in two separate crashes. Those crashes happened overnight Friday. Now their families are preparing to lay the couple to rest.
Imagine living the American dream. Luxurious homes, expensive cars, exotic vacations, and everything you've ever wanted.
Today, New York City police are trying to track down that gunman behind yesterday's brazen attack. The 10-year-old girl and her younger brother miraculously were able to escape uninjured. The 24-year-old, who was the intended target, was shot in both legs and in the back, but is expected to recover.
But what if everything you thought was real was just a carefully crafted lie?
Hey Greg, the couple was building a future together, ready to get married. Separate tragedies took them, leaving behind their 4-year-old son.
I love them, I'm gonna miss both of them, and I'm gonna find the strength to go ahead.
Natalie and Michael Cochran were living the life everyone envied. But behind the facade, a dangerous secret was growing. Their business promised millions, but in just months, it collapsed. What happened next was even more shocking. A deadly twist, deceit, and a family torn apart would leave everyone questioning how far someone would go to hide the truth. Was it all just a scam, or was there something far more sinister at play? The truth will leave you speechless. Don't miss a moment of this chilling story. The American Dream by 2017, Natalie and Michael Cochran were living what many would consider the American dream. They had achieved comfortable upper, middle-class lives in Raleigh County, West Virginia. Michael, an avid outdoorsman and baseball player, had a stable job in information technology, while Natalie worked as a pharmacist. They had 2 kids and spent their free time together as a family. Despite their content lives, the Cochrans were ambitious, constantly seeking new opportunities for greater success. But even the comforts of their current lifestyle weren't enough for this power couple. Their minds were already turning towards something bigger, something that would allow them to live out their dreams of wealth and success. They believed they could do better, so they decided to take a leap into a new business venture, one that promised to make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. Little did they know, this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately change their lives forever. Business venture. In 2017, Natalie and Michael Cochran launched their new business, Tactical Solutions Group, TSG, with the hope of securing lucrative state and federal weapons and tactical gear contracts. Despite having no prior experience in government contracts or the military and law enforcement sectors, they were confident that their hard work and dedication would eventually pay off. Their plan was simple: underbid the competition and land big contracts. Natalie left her job as a pharmacist to focus on growing the business, while Michael continued working in IT. To fund their startup, they turned to friends and family, convincing them to invest in their ambitious venture. They even spun a story about how they were inspired by the dark comedy, War Dogs, claiming it was the perfect business model to follow. Although many were skeptical, they managed to secure a few significant investments, including $250,000 from Michael's mother. With their newfound capital, the Cochrans were ready to take the business world by storm. At least, that's what they believed. But soon, their lavish spending habits began to raise eyebrows. Lavish spending flush with over $2,000 million in investments from friends and family. Natalie and Michael Cochran embarked on a spending spree that many would consider extravagant. Instead of focusing on growing their business, they bought luxury cars, boats, motorcycles, and expensive jewelry. Among their most notable purchases was a 1965 Shelby Cobra, a classic car that had nothing to do with their supposed business. But their lavish lifestyle didn't stop there. They took their children on extravagant vacations to places like Paris and Hawaii, where they indulged in high-end shopping at exclusive stores like Louis Vuitton. It wasn't just about material things, they wanted to live a life that screamed success. For a while, it seemed like they were living their dream, spending freely and enjoying the finer things in life. However, their growing lifestyle didn't align with the reality of their business. While they claimed TSG was a booming company, the truth was that they hadn't secured any government contracts or even taken a single step toward making their business legitimate. The money they were spending wasn't theirs. It belonged to their investors, and it was quickly running out. Investigation begins as the Cochrans' lavish lifestyle continued to grow, so did suspicions from their investors. Several months into their business venture, friends and family began to question the validity of TSG and whether they were ever going to see a return on their investments. Confronted about the delays and lack of progress, Natalie reassured them that government contracts were on the way and promised that any issues were due to bureaucratic red tape. Meanwhile, an investigation had already begun. The first signs of trouble came from a different source entirely: Natalie's role as the treasurer for a local Little League baseball fund. It was discovered that tens of thousands of dollars were missing, leading to a financial investigation into her personal and business activities. Private investigators uncovered over $30,000 in fraudulent purchases linked to Natalie. Despite the mounting evidence, Natalie continued to put on a confident front, telling investors to remain patient while her business was in the process of taking off. But in reality, the money was being funneled into a lifestyle that had nothing to do with running a legitimate company. The walls were starting to close in, and the Cochran's facade was beginning to crack. Michael's death by February 2019, things had taken a drastic turn. With their business failing, and the money from investors quickly depleting, the Cochrans were facing mounting pressure, but it was Michael's sudden health crisis that would alter everything. On February 6, 2019, Natalie told her family that both she and Michael were suffering from severe flu-like symptoms. Despite her claims that Michael was recovering, things took a darker turn when he was found in a coma-like state later that day. Friends and family were alarmed, and one of them, a physician's assistant, urged Natalie to take Michael to the hospital. After some hesitation, Natalie eventually agreed. At the hospital, doctors discovered severe swelling of the brain and dangerously low blood glucose levels. Oddly, Natalie claimed that Michael had been taking insulin regularly, explaining the medical condition, though he wasn't diabetic. Despite these troubling signs, Natalie maintained a cool, detached demeanor, causing suspicion among those around her. Michael's mother, worried and grieving, began to notice her strange indifference. Within days, Michael was declared unresponsive and died in hospice care on February 11, 2019. His death was initially believed to be from natural causes, but behind the scenes, West Virginia State Police detectives were already investigating his sudden and suspicious demise. The truth was far darker than anyone could have imagined. The verdict: the investigation into Michael's death continued, even as Natalie went about her life, still seemingly unaffected by the tragedy. But as the investigation progressed, detectives uncovered shocking details that pointed to foul play. 4 months after his death, Michael's body was exhumed, and forensic pathologists concluded that insulin had been deliberately injected into his body, confirming that his death was not natural, but rather a homicide. Meanwhile, Natalie's fraudulent business dealings caught up with her. The Ponzi scheme she had been running with TSG was exposed, and investigators discovered that she had stolen more than $2,000 million from her investors, including close family and friends. She had lied about securing government contracts and even planned to sell her fake business for millions. In 2021, Natalie was sentenced to 11 years in prison for her role in the fraud. But the legal troubles didn't end there. She was later charged with the first-degree murder of Michael Cochran, and in 2025, after a trial, she was found guilty of his murder. The case that started as a business failure and financial deceit culminated in a devastating loss of life, with Natalie facing life in prison without the possibility of parole. The damage she caused to her family, her friends, and her own children was irreparable. If you were shocked by this story, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more unbelievable true crime tales. What do you think? Did Natalie act alone, or was Michael part of the deception all along? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget, we have a lot more shocking stories to come. Stay tuned for our next video, the couple who faked their deaths to hide a bigger secret, coming soon. You won't believe what happened next.